You're listening to the Plain Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Oh dear, there's going to be a steward's inquiry about that one.
Well, hello and welcome to the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings and joining me in the Barn studio, he's back in the Barn studio, as well am I this week.
Indeed.
Matt Smith.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Yes, I'm sorry. It's apparently I went 10 seconds early.
10 seconds early.
But there we are. Enough of that story in my life. Anyway, how is everyone?
All very good. Yes, very good. Yes, we've had a bit more progress in the PTUK studio build this week. We are 100% complete in installing all the soundproofing, so it's incredibly quiet in there now when you shut the door.
Okay.
And what else?
It means that we can no longer hear the muffled screaming as he's nailing his thumb to the door. Yes.
Oh no! And we've got some studio lights which have got to be fitted.
Yes. Thank you very much to Owen for kindly donating those. Yeah.
What else have we got to fit up? We've got a desk being put in next week.
Yes, sort of like a breakfast bar type thing.
Yeah, that's happening
going early part of next week.
Next week, which will be awesome. And and the few finishing touches, including we've got some carpet. Haven't we had to go down as well?
I think so. Yes, we've got some nice pink carpet.
Oh well, it matches the tiles, which we've got to spray as well because at the moment the soundproofing.
You're not spraying the carpet.
No, but the soundproofing's pink, so we need to spray the soundproofing. Actually, I should pop some pictures on Facebook at some point of the studio build. So
right. There was some on Instagram, I think, this week, weren't there? Because I got messages about it.
I know. It's exciting. Anyway. So joining us this week, as always, is the awesome co-host of the show as well. He is the man who puts the one-liners, if you follow this man on Instagram
or
Facebook, I should say. It's Neville Bounds.
Yes, hi folks. Great to be back again, and looking forward to a great show. Been a bit of a hectic week again today, this week rather. But today I went to, or a client took me to the Design Museum in London, where there is a Ferrari exhibition.
Oh dear!
All the things that I can't possibly afford, but there's no harm in looking.
I have to.
They had lots of stuff back from the 1930s and 1940s right up to the present day. So
I have to confess, we were talking before we went live, weren't we? Actually, I think we've all decided we'd actually rather have your banana rather than one of those silly Ferrari things. They break down far too. You're right there, Carl.
Sorry, that's my fault.
Right, okay.
Clicking on things.
Anyway,
no, we would all rather have the banana. I think that's
so,
true to say. For sure.
It's cheaper to run, certainly.
Oh, yeah, probably, and insure, and you can get more stuff in.
Yeah, easier to mend, breaks down less.
Yeah, all the above. So joining us on the show this week, we have got a very special guest, indeed, joining us. And he's a chap who I'm sure that if you want to get a good picture taken of your house from around 10 or 15,000 feet, he is the man to see. So welcome onto the show, it's Stephen Ivey.
Only he's not there.
Only he's not there.
So welcome. I missed him.
Where does Stephen go?
Okay, all right. Well, Stephen Ivey is here. No doubt he will reappear at some point. So
Stephen Ivey is here as a guest. Honestly, he's here as a guest on the show. He's using hotel Wi-Fi, unfortunately, but which, as we all know, hotel Wi-Fi is either incredibly, insanely good, or it's prehistoric.
Yes. Unfortunately, yes. So we've now depressed the chat room because they're all like, "Yay, it's Stephen! Yay!" You know, Liz Piper, Jenny Parkinson, all that, and it's all gone horribly wrong.
So while Matt tries and gets Stephen back, we're going to say a big warm welcome to everyone who's joined us in the live chat room this evening. Loads of names in there, all the regular faces in there, as always. Jenny Parkinson's joining us from Rome. Hello to you in Rome. Nico Riga. We've got Liz Piper. Liz has been in there since last week. She hasn't left the chat room at all. Bless her. We all love Liz. And we've got Mariana, and who else? We've got Jordan Rose. Welcome to you, Jordan Rose, as well. Who else have we got? We've got Jonathan Warner has also joined us. I'm pleased to say, Jonathan, we have got some great stuff this week on the show. So just especially
stand down, everyone. Stand down.
We've got Masha as well. Hello, Masha is joining us as well in the chat room. Falco as well in the chat room. I don't think I've missed anyone out. Hopefully I haven't missed anyone. Alexandra Lyons as well in the chat room. I'm just scrolling up the list here.
Oh no.
What's up? Oh, who's in the chat room as well?
Royalty has just arrived.
Royalty as well has joined us in the chat room in the form of Captain Jeff.
Indeed, yes.
Hello to you. So the time is 5:07. It is Friday the 13th of April.
Oh, well, that's what's gone wrong then, isn't it? That's when do you know I've been at work all day and I hadn't actually realised it was Friday the 13th. And I've had one of those days where if anything could go wrong, it has gone wrong. And I think, Nev, I think you've had a similar experience today. Did you realise it was Friday the 13th?
Yeah, we were actually going really well until about 5 o'clock this evening when I had a bit of a client issue, shall we say.
Okay, yeah.
And it's so a good three-quarters of an hour to sort out, but we're okay now.
Yeah, well, it's one of those, isn't it? It's like, if the hotel Wi-Fi was going to play up, obviously it's going to play up on Friday the 13th. It all makes perfect sense now. This is perfectly normal.
So we're gonna mash on as we do with the slight issue there with Stephen's hotel Wi-Fi.
He's returning. It's all right. Don't panic. Yes.
But we've got a spot of housework to do this week before we start the show. As always, it's kind of near the beginning of the month, so we're going to say a big thanks and hand things over to Nev, who's got some special mentions.
Yes, of course. The Patreon fund is really important, and thank you very much for your fantastic contributions. So we do like to mention the people that help us, and of course, especially as we're building the barn studio and doing lots of other stuff, we have slightly more expenditure than usual. But just like to mention the following people: it's Adrian Meacham, Nick Anderson, Captain Jeff, Stephanie Plummer, Stuart Black, Liz Piper, Jonathan Warner, Evan Shue, Adam Spink, Matt Donnemeyer, Jeff Ward, Ben Todd, York Moeller, Philip Labe, Andrew Wilson, Graham Haley, Matt Caton, David Humphreys, Eric Graves, Jordan Rose, Steve Andress, Matthew Bunting Frame, Myla, Ryan Harper, Stuart Backer and Ray Williams. Thank you very much to all of you for your brilliant contributions. We really appreciate it.
We really do know. And if you want to contribute towards the show, then take yourself to patreon.com and look up PT or Plain Talking UK, and you'll find our Patreon page there. You'll also find it on the website. If you don't want to do that, of course, don't forget you can make a donation from PayPal. And if, like me, where you haven't really got any sort of spare money floating around, then why not do your shopping through the Amazon link? That way you can contribute towards the show, and it doesn't cost you a penny, sort of with all your usual shopping. So it's no excuse really. You can help us by any way you like. That I really messed that up. I'm sorry.
No,
it's
you're
going so well.
A special hello as well to a new face in the chat room, Jacob Schumann.
Oh, cool.
He's saying g'day from Austria.
Oh, very good.
Oh, hello,
Austria.
Jacob. Welcome
Very
into
good.
the live chat room chaos that is the PTUK show.
I don't know what you mean.
Welcome back, Stephen. I'm guessing you're back with us. Or not, as the case may be.
No,
okay.
So close.
I can assure you, at one point there, Stephen was in the virtual
studio. We could show, we're just under Nev there. Look, we could just show him. Look there. He's frozen. Look,
he's frozen.
He's frozen in time.
Stephen's frozen solid.
Yeah,
the hotel has turned its heating off.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely.
Well, I suppose
So
we'll
close.
crack on. I suppose we'll get Stephen back. Don't panic. We'll get Stephen back. But we are going to start off things then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
I am, yes.
And if you're ready, Nev.
Yes, completely.
Let's go. So, kicking off this week's first news story, and this one is on the npr.org website, this one, the two-way breaking news from NPR. So, everyone remembers the story from last year with Dr. David Dow being sort of pulled off an aircraft United flight rather vigorously.
Right, yeah, in a rather unfriendly manner.
In a rather unfriendly manner. So the headline on the story is officer who forcibly removed passenger from a United flight last year sues the airline. So
there's a shock.
I know. So an aviation security official who was fired after dragging a passenger off a United Airlines flight in Chicago last year is suing the airline and his former employer for the Chicago Department of Aviation, charging that he was not adequately trained for such a situation. James Long was called to the plane on April in 2017 after passenger Dr. David Dow refused to give up his seat to a United employee on the Chicago-Louisville flight. So as NPR's Camilla reported at the time.
I'm sorry.
Bit of a funny name there. So obviously at the time, Dr. David Dow visibly looked bloodied in the video, which was taken by fellow passengers as he was violently wrenched from his seat and physically dragged down the aisle. The incident turned into a public relations debacle for United. Long was fired in August, as was another officer involved in the incident, and a third officer was reassigned, according to the Associated Press. Dow said he sustained a broken nose and lost a tooth in the incident, and United apologised and later reached an undisclosed settlement with Dow. Long suits names United Airlines, Chicago Department of Aviation, or the CDA, and its Commissioner Ginger Evans, but for the CDA's negligence and failure to train Long and how to respond to an escalating situation with an airline, he would not have acted in the manner he did, which resulted in his termination of contract, according to the lawsuit. It also alleges that in multiple tweets, Evan defamed Long, calling his actions completely inappropriate and saying that the CDA does not arm security staff for good reason. The suit says such statements implied that Long was not acting in his capacity as a police officer. Representatives for United and the city declined to comment on Wednesday, saying they had not received the lawsuit, according to a Associated Press. Separately, 300 aviation security officials have filed a federal lawsuit against the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, saying they were unfairly stripped of their law enforcement background after an incident involving Dow, according to the Chicago Tribune. Well, it's safe to say this story seems to not go away.
And I dare say a certain airline would quite like it to go away.
Yeah,
and
I mean, you've got the passenger obviously suing, or the airline United, and getting. Now we've got the guy who dragged him off the airline suing United for.
Can't we just stop it?
Inappropriate training.
Yeah,
what's it going to be next? Is the person who was recording this going to, I don't know, sue United
for sort of like emotional damages or
to the
something?
phone?
Yeah.
I was thinking of suing them myself because I can't stand listening to the story anymore.
Right, yes, yeah. I mean, that is obviously a valid concern, Nev, and I genuinely think that you have a good case. I'm not going to lie. We're all a bit sick of hearing about it.
I think it's a bit of a suey nature, or a bit of culture, I should say, isn't it?
Mind you, as much as I'd like to say that we aren't like that anymore, I have to confess I think we probably are nowadays, aren't we?
Definitely.
Where we're literally sort of... doing
Liz has quite rightly put in the chat room that the lawyers are just loving the whole incident.
Yes, mind you, Liz also said in the chat room that she rather loves the word debacle, which I kind of agree with her. I think it's a beautiful word that's massively underused in social situations.
Masha has said something really good in the chat room, actually. Yeah. Masha says, when in doubt, sue.
Right. Okay. Yes. I mean, we all have to have a hobby, I suppose. That is what. Should we move away from this slightly dangerous sort of suing
before we get
technology
sued.
before we get sued ourselves, and we'll move straight on to story 2.
Actually, we have got some awesome audio feedback coming up later in the show from Captain Nick, which verges on he nearly sued us. But anyway, we'll not go there. But we'll play that later.
What a real treat for us all.
I know.
Mr. Ivy's back, everyone.
Mr. Ivy's back. Yay! Stephen.
See, look, he is here. Look, there he is.
He does exist. He does exist.
Oh, thank goodness for that. Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So back to the matter at hand. So this is story number 2, which means it's one thing and one thing only. It's a Ryanair story. This is on the Yahoo.com website. Beg your pardon? Right, and the airline and the headline is Ryanair to shut Crete base, limit Greek flights in airport fare protest. So Irish low-cost carrier Ryanair on Wednesday said it would shut down its base on the popular Greek tourist island of Crete to protest against airport charges. The Dublin-based group said it would also reduce its domestic Greek flights from the 1st of June to the start of the busy travel season. Regrettably, current airport charges at the majority of Greek airports encourage peak-only services in the summer or international routes, which require fewer aircraft in Greece. Nicholas Lardis, who is the Ryanair sales manager for the Eastern Mediterranean, said in a statement, no specific detail was given on the charges in question. 2 aircraft will therefore be transferred from Greece to Germany, where they can achieve superior utilisation on a year-round basis, Lardis added. Ryanair will continue to operate Athens services to top tourist island destinations, Mykonos and, is it Santorini? Santorini, my apologies, during the summer, in addition to Thessaloniki, but all other Greek services will be cancelled. This will affect connections from Athens to Chania Airport on Crete and Rhodes, and Chania to Thessaloniki, the company said. 4 low-frequency flights from Chania to Katowice, Memmingen, Wies, Treviso. So,
you're right there, Matt.
No, I'm not. And Vilnius will also be scrapped, the No Frills airline said, noting that it remained open to talks with airport operators to sustain a year-round service. Chania Airport is run by German operators Fraport, who said on Wednesday that Ryanair is a strategic partner in 9 out of the 14 airports managed by the company under the 2015 privatisation deal. Fraport Greece respects Ryanair's operational needs and choices, said George Villos, who is the Executive Director of Commercial and Business Development. Fraport's holdings include the airport in Thessaloniki, Mykonos, Santorini and Corfu. So who are Fraport? Are they an airline operator themselves then, or are they just specialise?
About the airport owner or handling,
right? Okay,
operator.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I can't help but feel it sounds like there's just sour grapes going on here for the sake of sour grapes, but it's I suppose, I don't know. I mean, people have to adjust. I mean, I know from my mum went to Greece only a couple of years ago, having been sort of like 5 or 6 years previous to that, before all the sort of the financial troubles, if you like, started in Greece. And one of the things, her lasting memory of her most recent trip there was how hideously expensive absolutely everything had become. As where like sort of 5-6 years ago when she went, it was a comparatively cheaper experience. Now prices are through the roof and all that. So I guess you got to expect that airports are charging them more, and if they aren't getting the load factors perhaps on these routes, then it's not worth paying the extra charges, I guess.
Just not paying the passenger and landing fees. Might have to get Jen to help them out to collect them.
True. Yeah.
I was just looking at departure and fees and landing fees, but departure charges actually at Heathrow Airport, just as a matter of how much these things are at airports. To give you a rough idea, this is the publicised in 2018, so it's this year. Heathrow, UK, the minimum departure charge for a flight flying from Heathrow into a EU country is £761.40. That's the minimum charge for an aircraft. For non-EU destinations, so aircraft flying out of Heathrow to destinations, across the pond as such.
Okay.
£1,378.08 minimum charge.
How does that compare to, say, an airport in Greece? I mean, is it?
I don't actually know. It'd be interesting to find out how much they, different airports charge for landing and departure.
Because I mean, obviously Ryanair don't fly into and out of.
Actually, one of the listeners who would probably know about this would be Jennifer.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because obviously, she'd know about the fees.
She's in the know. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So moving on to the next story, Nev.
Yeah, this is on the Scene in the City website, sceneinthecity.com, and I thought, a great British Airways story coming up, but not quite. It says, take fitness to new heights with an exercise class 162 metres in the air on the British Airways I-360.
Screw that!
I shan't be doing that.
No, I was going to say, why would you do that? What's wrong with you?
However, it says International Fitness Phenomenon F45 is set to take fitness to new heights with an exclusive takeover of the British Airways I360 on Saturday the 21st of April. Unlike your normal fitness class, you'll be taking part in a functional workout where you'll be squatting, lifting, pushing, pulling for 45 minutes with a sensational backdrop of the beautiful city of Brighton. There'll be sweat and maybe some tears, but a great live DJ to keep you motivated throughout the session to push you to do that extra rep. This one-off event is on track to be the world's highest fitness class and is a great way to get your day started, is it? As well as see the views of Brighton. F45 Brighton Central I360 takeover is being run to raise funds for the local Rocking Horse charity, a charity that helps to improve the lives of sick children and their families across Sussex. Well, that's a good thing, very good cause. When speaking about the F45 Brighton Central event, a rep from F45 said, "We're delighted to be taking our signature F45 workout to the skies on the British Airways I360. We're committed to partnering with the Rocking Horse charity throughout 2018 and want to raise as much money as possible for them. We are super excited to see people experiencing our incredible F45 workout in such a unique location in our amazing city." Tickets will be going on sale this Saturday. Sorry, that's actually last Saturday, in fact, on the 7th of April from 9 a.m. They're priced at £60, which includes your I360 flight, F45 workout, post-workout innermost protein shake. Odd.
I'm sorry, what?
F45 t-shirt and F45 baseball cap, followed by a healthy breakfast in the West Beach Bar and Kitchen at British Airways I360. The F45 Brighton Central is a special one-off event, so be quick as these are expected to sell out quickly. And if you wanted to register your interest, I think there's still time. Send an email to brightonscentral at F45training, that's all one word, f45training.co.uk, and all proceeds from the event go to the Rocking Horse charity. I've got no problem with the charity and the good cause. That's absolutely fantastic. But this seems too much like hard work for me, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, what's next? We're going to have gyms on board aircraft. I mean, I'm surprised. I'm actually surprised an airline hasn't thought of that yet, to have a gym purpose-built on the, part of the aircraft. What do you think, Stephen? Gym workout while
I mean, I kind of wish I had a gym on board my little plane flying around all day, just something to stretch my legs and everything, because, I'm up there for a couple hours a day. But I think a gym on a commercial airliner might not be practical just because of all the weight of the equipment and everything. And then you might have somebody that's lifting, 300 pound on a deadlift and then drop it to the floor. It might go through the bottom and damage the hull.
Well, and of course, I mean, the obvious issue with all of this is literally the weight, isn't it? I mean, that's one of the reasons why these things don't exist already, is because they do weigh, literally tons. Some of this weight stuff, isn't it? I mean, that's got to be a major reason why we haven't seen it on fancy aircraft yet. There must be an aeroplane out there somewhere that's privately owned that has exactly that.
Yeah. Maybe a yoga studio or something on board. That might be a little bit better.
Or a recording studio to do the show.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
Okay, yeah. Good luck with that. Yeah.
So next story, then, Stephen, we hand that one over to you, if that's okay.
Yeah. I've got it right here. Let's see. This is on Bloomberg, and it says pilot shortage forces world's biggest long-haul carrier to cut flights. Emirates, the world's largest long-haul airline, said a rebound in earnings over the past year faces a challenge this summer as a pilot shortage forces the Dubai carrier to trim frequencies. Sales that stumbled after the low oil price crippled travel in the Persian Gulf. Economies continue to pick up in the second half through March 31st. President Tim Clark said Wednesday in Hamburg. U.S. demand has also rebounded from restrictions imposed by Donald Trump's presidency. The revival will come under pressure as a shortfall of 100 to 150 pilots compels Emirates to prepare frequencies to destinations including Fort Lauderdale, Miami during the looming high season for global travel. Cuts will also extend to several European and Asian routes, according to the reports. He says we're tad short on pilots. Adding the service reductions will be a short term, that the new crew members should be all right by summer or October. Factors including economic growth in the U.S. and the U.K. and high employment and raising wages in Germany continue to favor growth, he said. Well, I'm glad to see that it's just not the United States suffering with the pilot shortage here. I know Emirates, they fly the larger long-haul aircraft, so you can't really just pull a guy off the street to go fly it. I was looking at their hiring page before we started the show, and they are asking for 2,000 total hours in aircraft that weigh greater than 20,000 tons.
Wow.
So that's, I would think, most of your commercial aircraft.
Yeah.
They also prefer you to have a type rating in some sort of Airbus or Boeing product. And then they also list their pay here, which is 30,000. What's their currency over there? I'm not familiar with.
It's dirhams.
Dirhams. Okay, so that translates into roughly 8,400 US dollars per month.
Wow.
They also give you a $3,400 US housing allowance to live in Dubai. So.
Wow. I mean, I think it's sort of safe to say, of course, it isn't just a US thing. I mean, I know that there's a pilot shortage here in the UK. I think, I think there's just a cross-board sort of pilot shortage, and it's just, I think certainly here in the UK, it's not very easy to obtain your commercial license, is it? I mean, I know we've spoken about this before, and I think we've spoken with Captain Al, who I've seen just appear in the chat room there.
Hey,
brace yourselves, everyone.
Captain Al.
And he's, we've had chats about this before, where there is just, I don't know what the solution is really. I mean, how you've got to, the easiest way to solve the pilot shortage surely is to make it cheaper for everybody to become a pilot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, surely that's got to be the solution, and it's a lot cheaper in the States to become a commercial trained pilot.
Yeah, I mean, I say it's cheaper.
It's a lot cheaper than the UK.
It depends on the route you take and everything too. I mean, if you go to the military, the government's going to pay for your training, which is going to, essentially cost you nothing but time in the service and things like that. And then, once you get out, the minimums to go to a commercial airline over here are lower than for people like me or just people that off of the 141 programs at the colleges. And then over in the Europe and I guess the Middle East, it's a little bit different. You still have to do the same amount of hours. I think the course work and everything's a little bit different, and the requirements are too. I know a lot of the airlines, I think Ryanair especially, they want you to pay for your training out of pocket, which is a considerable amount of money. But, once you have that type rating for whatever aircraft you're in, that kind of opens doors for you over there. As to where over here, having a type rating doesn't necessarily open as many doors to larger airlines. You're kind of tied to a particular aircraft from that point forward.
I mean, it's
the whole cost of the thing is the big thing here in the UK. It just costs so much to get your PPL. I mean, I know that, and it's a lot of people do that I've spoken to. A lot of people do move or not move, but do their flight training in the US because it's just that much cheaper. Or South Africa as well is another quite a popular destination too.
Yeah, that's where Stuart did a lot of his, wasn't it? Yeah. It's. Yes, well, either way, they need to do something about it. I think it's safe to say. Anyway,
Absolutely.
we could go on about this for days.
And
days
let's not forget as well, Emirates have got that huge order for more A380s as well, and the 777s as well. So they're buying aircraft that they haven't got pilots to fly.
Yeah, and another thing too is most of their flights are over 8 hours, so they're going to have 2 sets of crews on board for most of their flights. So it causes a bigger shortage than probably most airlines.
Yeah, no. As I say, I don't know what the solution. Well, the solution is make it cheaper, I think, and then there'll be more people available because I'm sure it's not an absolute thing. Anyway, we must move on.
So the next story is on the globes.co.il, and this one's quite a disturbing story, really, in regards to flying over the Mediterranean. But the headline is Airlines Handed Eastern Mediterranean Missile Warning.
I'm sorry, what?
So Eurocontrol warns that ground-to-air cruise missiles likely to be launched in the area of Syria, and they could disrupt navigational systems. The European Organisation for the Safety of Air Navigation, Eurocontrol, has sent a warning to airlines operating flights in eastern Mediterranean and the Middle East about an air attack in Syria over the next possible 72 hours, the global media reports. Eurocontrol warns that ground-to-air and cruise missiles likely to be launched in the area could disrupt the navigational systems in the aircraft of airlines operating flights in the Middle Eastern countries, with an emphasis on flights passing over Nicosia in Cyprus. The warning follows statements by US President Donald Trump concerning the possibility of military action in Syria after the gas attack there last week. Trump cancelled his planned trip to South America and warned this week that the response would be rapid and powerful. Eurocontrol's warning suggests taking into account the possibility of an air attack in Syria in the planning of flights in countries in the region. According to the Flight Radar 24 website, the only commercial flights that currently fly over Syria are by Syrian Air and Lebanese airline, Middle Eastern Airlines. The various news websites have published response by representatives of airlines in Europe to the warning, including Lufthansa, for example, whose spokesperson said that they are aware of the warnings, and the company emphasises that airlines in the group had been avoiding Syrian airspace in their flights for quite some time. EasyJet here in the UK announced that it had conducted a safety and security assessment and would adopt precautionary measures, including its routes from Tel Aviv. Ryanair and BA also announced that they were also evaluating the significance of warnings. EasyJet said that EasyJet conducted a safety and security assessment of activity in the region, and as a result will take a number of precautionary measures, including rerouting of its flights from Tel Aviv, as safety of the passengers and flight crew are top of their priorities. It's obviously, these are things I have to take seriously. We've had instances in the past where obviously, aircraft have been brought down by air-to-air
it doesn't happen very often, does it?
No, thankfully, but they have to take these things incredibly seriously indeed. But Nev, what do you reckon? This is you've got to be careful here.
We're all sitting here waiting, aren't we, to see what the next thing is, and if ever a civilian aircraft was brought down by any kind of missile from anybody, that would be very serious indeed for all concerned. I just hope people take a sensible pill over the next few days. I can't promise it, but it would be nice. I know that stuff that's gone on, and I understand that, but I think we've just got to take a serious look at all this.
I mean, a small part, as I say, I'm going to get myself into trouble for this, I know, but a small part of me sort of thinking, we've been down this road before and it hasn't ended very well. We've been down this road again before and it hasn't ended very well. Are we ever going to learn, or are we just going to keep, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know.
Flying in the US is a lot simpler, isn't it, Stephen?
Well, it is most days. We don't generally have to worry about this sort of thing over here. Usually more running into somebody else. But I know there's, I think FedEx actually, they have a system on board some of their aircraft that's actually the chaff and the anti-missile system that some fighter aircraft use, that they have on some of their aircraft that go to the Middle East. I think if stuff like this is going to be a more common occurrence, airlines might want to look into investing into this. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that the missile's not going to hit you, but it certainly improves your chances from having no capability at all.
Yeah, no, a valid point.
So the next story then, Matt, and this one is one we were discussing earlier, actually.
Yeah.
And I think if this idea comes true, it'll be quite interesting.
Although again, Stephen did raise some interesting points when we were talking about it, which I'm sure he'll be mentioning in a moment. But it's on the USA Today website, and the headline is "Sleeper berths in airline cargo holds. That's the plan at Airbus." So you might soon be able to sneak down to the cargo hold for a nap the next time you take an ultra-long transoceanic flight. That's the idea being floated by plane manufacturer Airbus and seat maker Zodiac Aerospace. The companies say they're working to develop sleeping berths that could be installed in the cargo holds of certain long-range Airbus craft. Airbus and Zodiac Aerospace say that the cargo compartment modules would offer new opportunities for additional services to passengers, improving their experience whilst enabling airlines to differentiate and add value to their commercial operations. The companies say they hope to offer the option to airlines for orders beginning in 2020. Initially, the sleeper modules would be offered on Airbus A330 wide bodies, either on new deliveries or with an option to retrofit existing aircraft. Adding the option to Airbus's new long-range A350 jets is also being studied. It's unclear how the sleeper berths might be offered to passengers. Decisions on how to market and sell such options are typically left up to the airline and their customers. Airbus and Zodiac Aerospace did not detail any specific concepts, but it's likely that passenger carriers would consider several options. One might include selling access for passengers sitting elsewhere on the plane, presumably letting them pay for several hours, or perhaps an entire flight's worth time in the sleepers. Some higher-end carriers might explore the idea as a possibility to add a lounge area where one of the perks could be a nap. Airbus and Zodiac offered several concepts in mock-ups accompanying their press statement. One shows a large lounge. One shows a standard lounge. Others show options that include a conference room and a kids and family zone, and even a medical care zone. Absent additional details, the berths are unlikely to become an option for the entire duration of a flight. Safety rules require passengers to be buckled into seats during takeoff and landing, and it's not clear whether such an option would be available in a cargo area of sleeper berths. It also seems unlikely that a passenger would want to commit to a sleeper berth for flights of 8 hours or more without a dedicated option for upright seating or windows. The modules could not be occupied during takeoff or landing, and Airbus spokesman Martin Fent said by email to USA Today in the Sky blog, these underfloor sleeping berths would be aimed more towards economy class market. Really, I'm amazed. And would be available for a lower price for a passenger than a premium class flatbed seat. So I mean, the story goes on, but you basically get the gist here. They're sort of toying with the idea of doing it. Now, Stephen, you actually raised quite an interesting point when we were talking about this before we started, in the fact that because it's not exactly the quietest part of the aeroplane down there.
No, it's not, and there's not any. I don't believe there's a standard like HVAC or heating system that could keep you warm or cool while you're down there either. Not to mention the soundproofing and all that, so it's quite noisy down there. And not only that, most aircraft, unless it's a wide body and has a crew rest down below, they don't have access to the cargo hold itself. So that's another factor you're going to have to play into this as well. I mean, and going back to this too, it's a weight issue too. All of the berths, the walls, storage, and all that, you have to have it down there, and then the extra crew to monitor everybody to make sure. I'm gonna leave it as a family show, and also you're taking away from your cargo capacity as well, because it's going to be taking up the cargo hold. So you're going to be possibly losing revenue if you don't sell these sleeping berths.
I mean, is it being considered possibly because essentially they aren't filling the holes? I mean, is that sort of, because I mean, so many people nowadays are used to flying on a budget, if you see what I mean, and therefore used to doing it all on hand. In hand luggage. You're smiling. I'm almost terrified to look at the chat.
No, I'm just looking at this story goes on actually to say that, I mean, one of the designers called Zodiac Aerospace, who obviously do a lot of work with interiors of aircraft interiors. They've got this kind of sort of pencil design here of a kids' play area or family zone, with a slide going from the the main cabin area down to this lower compartment, and then like a soft play area with a like a cinema for kids so they can watch a film. It's brilliant.
I mean, I pressed the wrong button there. Sorry about that. I can kind of see why. I mean, why don't they do it like that? Somewhere where you could go and watch like a film. Mind you, I suppose you can all watch
an onboard cinema.
Yeah, an onboard cinema. Although
when you're travelling, obviously like Nev, when he travels first class with BA, he's got his own TV and everything, and concierge service. He doesn't need a cinema to go and watch.
Although the small part of me that dislikes children, I say small.
Get rid of the kids down the hold.
Absolutely. Is put all the children in the cargo hold anyway. Never mind, that's just me being old and grumpy.
So moving on to the next story then, and Nev, this is for you.
Yeah, now I can't actually load the next story because you need one of those account things, and even turning the ad blocker off and the rest of it doesn't work. So,
dear.
I've got the full thing.
Yeah.
I have 2 free articles remaining.
Do you want to take this one then, Stephen?
Yeah, I can.
Great.
Take this one. Let's see. This is on the Chicago Business Journal. Boeing gets a $1.7 billion freighter order from, well, I'm going to probably butcher this, but is it Qatar? What do we call it on this show?
I don't know. Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Qatar.
Okay, we'll go with Qatar. Qatar Airways today signed a letter of intent with Chicago-based manufacturer Boeing to purchase 5 wide-body Boeing 777 freighter planes valued at $1.7 billion. The Boeing 777 freighter is capable of flying 4,900 nautical miles with a payload of 112 tons. The airplane's long range translates in significant savings, as fewer stops mean lower landing fees, less congestion, lower cargo handling costs, and faster delivery times. Boeing is a leader of air cargo freighter in the air cargo freighter arena, providing 90% of the dedicated freighter capacity around the world. Qatar Airways currently operates a fleet of nearly 100 Boeing wide-body airplanes and has about 100 more Boeing aircraft on order. Qatar CEO Akbar Al-Baker, is that really his name? I thought it was just Al-Baker. Anyway, the addition of the 5 777 freighters is a significant amount for our cargo division. As the world's third largest cargo operator, Qatar Airways continues to invest in fleet expansion. This transaction will be a reinforcement of our confidence in Boeing to continue to deliver an outstanding product that meets our exacting standards. Well, it looks like Boeing got 5 more orders for their 777 freighter variant. I wasn't aware that Qatar had that large of a cargo operation out of their hub.
Yeah.
Doha's a huge airport, or Doha, if you want to call it, Doha. Qatar, yeah. I've not been into the actual terminal building at Doha, but I've been through as I landed there for a short time and then taken off. But it's a huge airport. It's a massive hub at Doha. But I have seen the cargo aircraft there for Qatar Airways. And it's it's obviously not such a big operation like FedEx or something like that, but they do, even Emirates have their own cargo division as well.
Well, you don't know what the type of cargo is. I mean, is this not like Amazon hauling stuff from the United States over to the Middle East or anything, or is it just chartered cargo for companies over there?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is probably with the Middle Eastern countries, kind of food, produce, and stuff like that. I think is probably, and obviously electronics, I'd imagine, is quite a big part of their cargo.
Oh, I've heard of electronics.
I'm good at
that subject. Yeah. Excellent. So we're going to go on to the next story then, if we may. Nev, I wonder if you might be able to take this one instead.
This story suits Nev down to the ground.
Oh,
it's got some faults with some of the stuff they're talking about, and this is from the Australian Business Traveller website, and it says that Boeing has pulled back the covers on its all-new business class seat, which will be offered to airlines as an off-the-shelf seat for the pointy end of the factory-fresh Boeing jets, as well as retrofit upgrades. Intended for the twin-aisle jets, such as the Boeing 777 and 787 Dreamliner family, it not only converts into a lie flat bed, but also allows the paired middle seats to become a cosy double bed. I don't know if Matt's got the pictures up for this, but frankly speaking, it looks like 3 airbags have gone off when it's actually supposed to be a double bed, which just judging by the width of that does not look anywhere near adequate for mine.
I'm popping the picture up now, Nev. I can't help but feel it's not built for the more ample of gentlemen, shall we say?
What I was
height-wise. Yeah.
Never mind girth. I'm talking actual height.
I don't think you want to be more than 4 foot 5
Yeah,
in that bed.
I mean, I suppose you could sort of starfish or go diagonally across the desk.
Well, I think there's a slot underneath that the front side right there that your feet actually go underneath there.
Yeah.
But even then, that's not a lot of
but
space.
you see,
it's been developed with the automotive seat maker Adient, and it's the flagship of several concept designs in the portfolio of joint venture Adient Aerospace, and will this week be shown to potential customers at Hamburg's annual Aircraft Interiors Expo. Other details are scant surrounding the new seat, apart from the fact that it converts into a fully lie flat bed and, as can be seen from the photo, makes room for the mod cons of personal space to spread out one's work and keep selected in-flight items close at hand. However, the smartphone nestled into a recessed compartment hints that wireless charging, which is already found on the latest Apple iPhones and Samsung Galaxy mobiles, could be part of the high-tech roster. The seat also appears to have sliding privacy doors similar to those of Qatar Airways Q Suite. It'll be our goal to provide a superior customer and passenger service experience by delivering superior quality seats with intelligent product design, said Alan Whitman, who's the CEO of Adient Aerospace. And they are seeking to carve out a slice of the commercial airline seating market, which industry analysts expect to grow from $4.5 billion US dollars in 2017 to $6 billion by 2026.
Wow. I think it's safe to say that in the chat room there has been much conversation about this. Captain Nick, who we'll be coming back to later as I get yet another ticking off, or we all get a ticking off, I think, is sort of said that that he's actually slept two up in a 2'6" 2'6" wide bed, and that's an image that I think will haunt me probably now until I pass. It has to be said, mainly because Nick is so very, very tall. I don't quite understand how that even works. But anyway, as Neil quite rightly says, and Nick indicates that he didn't get much sleep. To be fair, and Nick quite rightly has said, family show, ladies and gentlemen. Family show. I'm going to have that stinger myself at some point. This is happening more and more. But yes, what old Captain Al. Honestly, hope you didn't have a double curry on that occasion, Nick. Good point. Good point. Anyway, the tone has been suitably lowered. Shall we move on?
Yeah, we're kind of off kilter now with who's. Shall I go? I'll take the next one, shall I? Yeah, this one is on the digitaltrends.com website. A bit of one for the techie people here, Matt.
Hello.
Mr. Bounds.
Yes.
And the headline, there is a good reason why this drone flies near aircraft. So ordinarily, you don't want drones going anywhere near planes. A small flying machine could collide with a large flying machine. One with people on board almost certainly isn't going to end well, which is why strict flying bans are in place around airports for quadcopters and other remotely controlled aerial devices. So why is Airbus happily flying drones right up close to their own aircraft? Well, it's actually to make planes safer, as the aerospace giant is using the machines to help with visual checks of aircraft, considerably reducing aircraft downtime and improving the quality of inspection reports, Airbus says. The company unveiled its advanced inspection drone this week in Florida at the MRO America's Exposition, a gathering of aviation maintenance professionals from around the world. Designed for use inside a hangar away from the elements, the custom-built quadcopter uses a laser-based obstacle detection and anti-collision system to ensure it never gets too close to the parked aircraft. Following a predetermined inspection path, the machine flies around the aircraft all the time, capturing high-res images of its exterior. The data is then sent wirelessly to a tablet, allowing the operator to review in real time for a more detailed look. The images are transferred to a desktop inspection station where a technician uses dedicated software capable of detecting any visual surface damage by comparing the real-world images against the aircraft's 3D structural model. The new inspection process will only take 3 hours, including 30 minutes of image capture by the drone, and will improve operator safety by the company, as they said. By contrast, the traditional aircraft visual inspection is performed on the ground or using a telescopic platform, in particular for those upper parts of the aircraft, a process which could typically last up to 1 day. So as you can see, using drones in this way drastically reduces the inspection time, enabling the aircraft to return to service more quickly, while at the same time offering enhancements to the overall quality of the inspection reports. Airbus says its new drone platform is part of its Hangar of the Future initiative that brings together
You're right there.
really smart technologies such as drones and collaborative robots for aircraft inspection. The aerospace company says it's already demonstrated its advanced inspection drone to several airlines, many of which have expressed an interest in incorporating it into their own aircraft maintenance procedures. The kit will be available to use in the final quarter of this year. Now, Matt, you were playing the video there while I was saying the story there.
I'm clever like that.
Is that something you'd like to have a go of, Matt? Flying that drone around?
Well, to be honest with you, it's probably a little bit pointless, only because, as it said in the video and as the story you were reading, it is completely automated. So you basically hit the go button and it automatically follows the line of the aircraft. The one thing that was, for me, was absolutely outstanding on that video was how beautifully shiny that aircraft was. It had obviously had a fresh tea cut just before the filming was commenced. But yeah, it's... yeah, I mean, it's a great... I mean, of course, also, the way the story initially read, it rather suggested that it was actually sort of flying alongside it whilst it was in the air. And, of course, this is taking place on the ground in a hangar. So, you know, but it's a great idea.
We covered a story not so long back. Remember, EasyJet were using a similar kind of system. Yeah. What do you think, Nev?
I think it's a good idea, actually. And obviously the accuracy is great. And they do this sort of thing in some of the business that I work in, because we're using this BIM technology, 3D, so you can see through buildings, so you can see clash detection and that kind of stuff. So, I think that's a good use of it, definitely. Nice change to see. It's nice change to see a useful use of
genuine use of the drone. I think it's worth saying also in the chat room, Alexandra Lyons is saying that by contrast, Boeing uses a person with a very large hammer. But anyway, there we go.
Stephen, is this something that's being used in the US? Do you know?
Not that I know of. So in my former career, I worked at a power company, and we actually had drones to do internal boiler inspections and things like that, which is a little bit different than an aircraft, but kind of the same principle. And we actually had a problem with the metal inside the furnace and inside the building itself, causing the drone to drift quite a considerable amount, and it would actually just hit the wall and crash out. So I'm not sure if they've taken that into account doing that inside of a hangar. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the inside of the Tech Ops hangar at Delta in Atlanta. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to maneuver a drone around when there's two aircraft stacked on top of each other. So if you're not going to do it inside, that means you have to do it outside, which you have to take into account the sun being at a correct angle and all that to make sure all the images you're capturing are not causing you any glint or anything like that coming off the aircraft. So I think it's a good idea. It's just they might want to try it in some different areas as far as inside of a hangar with other aircraft around or outside in different types of weather.
Well, I think it was saying also in that story, it was actually saying that it was being guided purely by lasers, so it was actually making sure that it wasn't actually being flown by the guy, if you see what I mean.
Okay. It was. Well, even with that though, if the laser, fails, the sensor or whatever gets blocked, that can cause you to drift,
True.
To a certain extent, probably, And I don't know if you necessarily want a drone running into a multi-million-dollar aircraft.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's
I was just reading the chat.
Yeah, sorry, we're reading the chat room there.
Sorry, Nick was making some very interesting comments there. Captain Nick says he thinks a bloke on a cherry picker might be a little bit cheaper.
He might well be actually a little bit cheaper. Yeah.
Well, what I was actually thinking, if you're going to use cameras and all that, why don't you just build a special hangar that just does nothing but inspections and basically scans the aircraft? I mean,
true. Yeah.
Same basic concept.
Yeah, sort of like a glorified MRI scanner, but with all
MRI for aircraft,
that just sort of scans over the machine. I can't believe that hasn't been thought of before, and I dare say it's probably cheaper than one of these drones.
And a quick special hello to Shorty Crosgrove, who's just appeared in the chat room. He apologised. He's been working very hard, but he's still listening to the show.
Oh, very good.
And he just popped in to say hello. So hello, Shorty.
Hello, Shorty. Okay, good. Excellent. Shall we move on?
Shall we
ladies and
move on?
gentlemen?
We'll
Yes.
move on to the next story, Matt. I think.
Is it?
this,
In that case, let's not move on because I didn't realise. Sorry, I was so busy. It's the Evening Express. Is that correct?
That's the one.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so the Evening. Sorry, you caught me unawares there. The Evening Express is the website, and the headline is "New plane unveiled at Aberdeen Airport." It's an unusual place for an aircraft launch. A new aircraft is being unveiled at Aberdeen International Airport. Norwegian airline Widerøe, is it, revealed its new plane yesterday at the airport. The airline is the first to use the E190-E2 aircraft on commercial flights, and the second generation Embraer jet took its first flight carrying passengers just after 2 p.m. Carol Benzie, who is the managing director at the airport, said, "We were honoured that Widerøe would choose to host this historic event at Aberdeen. It was fantastic to be able to share this exciting day with the airline and Embraer, and we look forward to seeing this revolutionary new aircraft in the skies. The aircraft, which is said to be environmentally friendly, took 78 selected VIP passengers, including Widerøe CEO Stein Nielsen, on to further celebrations in Bergen." And that really is a short and sweet story, but yeah.
I think it's probably also to do with the fact that Bergen and Aberdeen, there's lots of oil and gas traffic between those two cities. That's probably why they chose Aberdeen.
Oh, I see. Yes, of course. Yeah, it's one of those.
So I've got a few stats then on the Embraer E195-E2. There's actually a good picture on that story that Matt's got there. Look at the engines look wider than the fuselage near enough. But no, the E195-E2 maximum cruise speed Mach 0.82. And it has a takeoff field length of 6,463 feet. Has a service ceiling 41,000 feet, a range of 2,600 nautical miles or 4,815 kilometres. Maximum takeoff weight is at 61,500 kilos. Maximum landing weight 54,000 kilos. And a payload max of 16,150 kilos, and can seat up to 146 people in a single class, and that's with a 28-inch pitch. And yeah, there we go. A bit of info on that aircraft.
Very good. Well done. Anyone would have thought that you'd done some research.
I
Carlos,
did a little bit of
scared.
research.
Yes. Anyone else feeling nauseous, or is it just me?
No, but you got to admit though, those engines on that picture though, what the power's at, they just look massive.
They do. They look like
they
they should be on a much larger aircraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we are. Anyway.
So the next story then, and Nev.
Yes, it's from AIN Online, and it talks about the Sunflyer 2 that makes its first flight, and the prototype electrically powered fixed-wing trainer made its first flight on April the 10th by Aerospace, announced this week at Sun and Fun. "We had a fantastic first flight," said Charlie Johnson, by Aerospace president. By Aerospace intends for the Sunflyer series, including the Sunflyer 2 and the 4-seat Sunflyer 4, to be the first FAA-certified, US-sponsored all-electric airplane to serve the flight training and general aviation markets. The prototype aircraft flew at Centennial Airport, which is just south of Denver, Colorado. George Bai, founder and CEO of Bai Aerospace, said lower operating costs are key to solving the student pilot dropout rate, which is curtailing the successful attainment of badly needed airline pilots. The Sunflyer's $3 hourly operating costs are 10 times lower than that of traditional piston engine flight trainers, with no carbon emissions and significantly reduced noise. EP Systems provided the energy storage system for the Sunflyer 2 prototype flight tested, including battery modules, battery management units, and power distribution units. The battery cells are LG Chem MJ1 lithium-ion battery cells, which have a 260 watt per kilogram energy density. Bai Aerospace will soon announce who its electric motor partner will be for the family of FAA certified Sunflyers. The company is also developing an advanced high-altitude, long-endurance, solar electric unmanned aerial vehicles under the name Strato AirNet. That's just quite interesting, isn't it? So being able to learn to fly on this kind of aircraft might make it a lot less
Cheaper,
expensive.
a lot
wouldn't it?
cheaper and
Is it
quieter.
well, yeah. I just.
Well, I was looking at the stats actually on the specs on the aircraft itself. It's got 6 lithium-ion batteries, or 6 lithium-ion battery packs. The electric motor itself actually produces 110 horsepower, which is not too bad really for an electric powered engine.
I mean, the only thing that massively concerns me about this story, and I do mean massively concerns me, is if you're learning to fly in this thing, there are a lot of variables already that are unknown in some respects. It just makes me, because it's not going to be able to stay in the air as long as, say, a petrol-powered version.
3.5 hours.
3.5 hours.
On
right, okay.
According to the spec list, 3.5 hours.
As long as it's fully charged before you start.
As long as it's fully
that's
charged.
fine, yes.
Well, they don't take into account either it being hot or cold outside, because that's going to affect your performance on your battery.
Very good point. Very good point. You see,
And you don't want a thermal runaway on those batteries.
no,
do you?
Absolutely
no,
not.
definitely not.
Absolutely not.
That's a big no. No, we definitely don't want one of those. God.
So, Stephen, this has a rate of climb of 1,150 feet per minute, this particular aircraft.
Wow.
That is rather impressive.
Yeah.
But I suppose this is one of the things, like over the electric cars. I'm using cars as an example because it's the only thing that I can sort of use as a reference point. But of course, one of the things that makes electric cars so fast is torque. And I guess the same thing would apply in regard to a propeller and the thing. If the torque is much stronger, you can get up to your maximum speed of the engine much faster than you would using sort of conventional methods. Does that sound
What do you think of this then, Stephen? What are your views on the Sunflyer 2?
I think it's a good idea, as far as saving training costs. And I know they mentioned that, and they said that to help reduce pilot shortage, increase training and all that other stuff to reduce the cost. While that may be true, there's other factors that are going to come to that as far as reducing the amount of, cost of training and all that. You still have to pay for a CFI. You still have to pay, for the airplane, things like that. So from that aspect, I think it'll help out a little bit. And then as far as the actual aircraft itself, I noticed that it's got a glide ratio of 18:5, which is really impressive.
Yeah.
And then other than that, I would be really concerned about the life of the battery depending on the weather. Up here we've went from it being below freezing last week to it's 55 degrees outside yesterday. Wow. That kind of swing is going to take a toll on the battery life if you're not flying it, in which I'm sure most places are going to be flying this thing for a better part of 8 hours a day. But even then, how quick can you recharge these batteries to get people back in the air? It's saying it's got a 3.5 hour endurance. What was it? I think it was 260 kilowatt hour batteries. So it's going to take a while to recharge those, and not only that, you've got to put the bill. Put the electrical bill for that too.
Yeah, that's true. Although that will be cheaper than. That's why the electric cars work.
So it depends on where you live. Down in Georgia, the average kilowatt hours anywhere between 9 to 12 cents a kilowatt hour. I know there's some places up north that's closer to 15, 18 cents a kilowatt hour. So, which doesn't sound like a huge difference, but this would fall under a commercial operation, so they're going to hit you with the commercial rate, which is going to be higher than the residential rate.
But presumably, outweighing that against the cost of the kerosene-based fuel, essentially, presumably that's not as high. Presumably, the recharging cost will be less than using the highly refined aviation fuel that you're using in the plane.
Less flammable.
Well, I don't know. If you get a thermal runaway, I don't know.
Apart from the thermal runaway, yeah. Always get back to the thermal runaway.
Indeed.
That's another good point. What happens if you crash and you crack one of these batteries and it damages it? Is it going to instantly start catching on fire and burning everything? That's another point to think about on this.
So if you want to go and buy one of these, Steve, and you can, let's just look at the price of these. You can go and grab yourself one of these for around about $289,000.
Splendid, right?
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't know if I would spend that kind of money. I know of a couple other airplanes I can get for that. They're going to do double the airspeed and all double the weight. So
Steven's thinking he's going to stick with the Mooney.
I'm going to stick with the Mooney for now, I think.
I should. Yeah, it's a beautiful plane, to be fair.
It is. Yeah. We've all seen it.
We have seen it in Pittsburgh. Yeah, absolutely.
So the last story on the show for this commercial news segment this week, and this we always love to bring you a top 10, and we brought you one last week, and this is a top 10 brought to you by a website that I think probably everyone in the world knows about, which is TripAdvisor.
I have heard of that.
I think
yes,
we all at one point in time have probably either put a review on TripAdvisor or read a TripAdvisor review before travelling somewhere.
Actually, do you know what? My mum, of all people, is a TripAdvisor queen when it comes to that. She reviews everything.
I'm a senior contributor.
Are you?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I mean that in a older sense.
Right.
Anyway.
Okay. I'm glad we had this chat.
But no, this top 10 is, like I said, brought to you by TripAdvisor, and we have got the top 10 airlines, how they stack up on TripAdvisor. So, starting at number 10.
At number 10.
At number 10, it is Korean Air. Based in South Korea, fleet size 169 aircraft, and has an excellent rating of 58%.
In at number 9, please, Nev.
It's Azul, and they're based in Brazil. They have a fleet size of 130 with an excellent rating of 55%.
Number 8, please, Stephen.
Is Qatar Airways out of Qatar with a fleet size of 212 and an excellent rating of 54%.
Carlos, it's new at number 7.
Here in the UK, it's Jet2.com. It's a fleet size of 81 aircraft and an excellent rating of 59%.
And it's worth mentioning, I think it's the only one from the UK that actually features in said top 10. Number 6, please, Nev.
That is the very popular Southwest Airlines based in the US. They have a fleet of 717 aircraft and an excellent rating of 62%.
In at number 5, please, Mr. Ivey.
Is Eva Air out of Taiwan with a fleet size of 75 and an excellent rating of 58%.
It's number 4, please, Carlos.
It's Japan Airlines, based in Japan, and they have a fleet size of 267 aircraft and an excellent rating of 61%.
It's our highest climber this week. It's number 3.
It's Emirates, based in the UAE, and they have a fleet size of 267 aircraft with an excellent rating of 57%.
No surprises here. It's number 2.
It's Air New Zealand out of New Zealand with a fleet size of only 56 aircraft and an excellent rating of 60%.
And it's the top of the charts. It's number 1.
The TripAdvisor best airline in the world is Singapore Airlines. Based in Singapore, fleet size of 110 aircraft and excellent rating of 58%.
Very good, everyone. Very good. Okay, well that was a lot of fun. Do we all agree with that? Does that seem?
Well, yes, Singapore have hit the top again, haven't they? But what really surprises me was Jet2.com.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't realise they had 81 aircraft in their fleet. That's incredible, isn't it?
I must say, actually, you've seen them here in the barn a couple of times. My friends,
Jet2?
No, not Jet2. Shut up. Honestly.
Pretty short runway.
Yeah, indeed, yeah, absolutely. But no, Elisa and Lee, they've actually flown with Jet2 quite a lot, and they literally don't have anything but nice things to say about their experiences on Jet2. So I can sort of see why they've featured quite highly in this top 10. As I say, and interestingly enough, they are the only UK-based airline to actually appear in said
and
Jet2
report. Still use the awesome Boeing 757-200. They've got 11 of those in their fleet. Don't you know?
Indeed. Okay, so lovely though this commercial segment is, it is now officially over, and it's time to turn our attentions to a complaint, I think is the best way to describe
another
this.
complaint.
Yet another complaint from the legend that is Captain Nick. So, Captain Nick, please take it away.
All right, you horrible PT UK, you're late on parade again. I'll have you down the guardroom on a fizzer if you don't watch out.
What a story.
It is. It's a great story.
I didn't even know that happened.
What the hell do you mean you didn't even know that happened? Don't you ever listen to Plain Tales?
Did you know anything about that?
I didn't actually know. No.
Ignorance is no bloody excuse. You're all going to be on KP duty for the rest of your useless lives.
But
No buts, you horrible little man. You'll get what's coming to you.
I would imagine the one person who'll probably know all about that story would be Captain Nick.
Yes, of course, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. That's the first sensible thing you said all week.
Yeah.
Who knows? There may even be a Plain Tales on its way, all about it. But who knows?
I'll have you know the Plaintail Avon over the Thames on APG 223 in June 2016 covered the flight of Flight Lieutenant Pollock's Hunter under the Tower Bridge in depth. And where were you lot? Still in nappy, sucky on your mothers? That's enough, Flight Sergeant. I'm sure the fine gentleman meant no harm, did you?
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
TheVoicesInYourHead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com
Or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23-hour Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2DME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fly a commercial passenger jet? Looked up at the sky and thought, I wish that was me? Well, now anyone has the chance to have a go at flying in a real aircraft simulator. NP Simulations and Flight Experience London, the only official Boeing licensed product of its kind in the UK, offer you the chance to fly anywhere in the world in their fixed-base Boeing 737-800 flight simulator. And that's not all. Ground School London offers many different courses for the up-and-coming pilot looking for a start in aviation. With prices starting at just £109, the sky's the limit. So for the ultimate flight simulator experience, or engaging preparatory courses, including those for schools and colleges, check out the websites at www.london.flightexperience.co.uk and www.groundsschoollondon.com, or call on 020 300 40 616. NP Simulations. Fly your dreams.
I think it's safe to say that pretty much everyone enjoyed the feedback from Nick.
Well, I think we've officially been told off. There is no two ways about that.
But also, I think people were encouraging us to make mistakes more often so we can have more.
Yeah, well, yes, there is that. Yes, rest assured, I will do everything I can to ensure that that is exactly what happens.
What, we make mistakes?
Yeah, absolutely.
We can't do things like that.
We're always making mistakes. We never get the damn thing right.
Oh,
anyway, there we are.
Welcome into the chat room, Dr. Steph. Dr. Steph's in the chat room. Hopefully, she's not watching the show whilst driving. driving this week.
She does that a lot, to be fair. She's a busy lady. What can we say? We should be very grateful for her time.
I know. So we've got some military news coming up next then to go through for Mr. Warner, because obviously he does love his military stuff. And after the military segment, we're going to have a good old chat with Stephen about how he's getting on with his flying.
I think it's safe to say that Mr. Ivy's had quite a busy year.
He has, yeah. So without further ado then, we are going to get some military news. And so if everyone is ready...
we certainly are, yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
So the first story this week then, and it's on flightglobal.com, and we've all probably seen at the air shows, me and Matt and Nev have definitely seen these. I think Stephen will probably have seen these as well over in the US. The F-35's 11-year flight test phase comes to an end. So a Lockheed Martin F-35C on April the 11th completed the final test flight of the program's System Development and Demonstration, or SDD phase, capping off an 11-year-long saga spanning 9,200 sorties and 17,000 flight hours for 3 major variants. Program officials hailed the completion as historic accomplishment for an advanced high-performance aircraft with 0 injuries or deaths and no aircraft lost since the original AA-1 prototype flew for the first time on the 15th of December 2006, with then Lockheed Chief Test Pilot John Beasley at the controls. There was not one lost aircraft nor one lost team member. F-35 Program Executive Vice Administrator, or Vice Admiral, Matt Winter said on the 11th of April, speaking at the Navy's League Sea Air Space Exhibition. Most major weapons systems go through a lot of learning, he added. The F-35 program encountered no unrecoverable safety incidents during the flight test program, but the learning began only seconds after Beasley's first takeoff in 2006. Instead of smoothly lifting skyward, the AA-1 abruptly tilted right before Beasley's correction returned the wings to level. Lockheed engineers blamed the unexpected tilt on the single Pierce nose gear door, which they fixed by splitting the single panel door into 2 panels with one on each side. More surprises still awaited the flight test pilots after December 2006 on the 19th test flight. In less than 6 months later, the program narrowly escaped a serious incident. With Beasley again in the cockpit, the AA-1 prototype suffered a major electrical malfunction, which spun the aircraft out of control. After Beasley again righted the aircraft and landed, the engineers launched a redesign of critical components of the electrical system. More issues, including a transonic roll-off problem on the carrier-based F-35C, persistently overheating electronics and software bugs, continued to dog the program for years. But the F-35's greatest challenges proved to unfold outside the flight test department as engineering changes and supply chain bottlenecks caused a series of delays and major cost overruns over a period between 2009 and 2012. When Beasley, now a retired 67-year-old, completed the first flight in 2006, program officials predicted that already 5-year-old system development and demonstration phase would end in 2012. For the last half-decade, the Joint Program Office has put a lid on the overall cost to develop and produce the 2,456 aircraft in the US military spending plan, along with nearly 800 more committed orders from foreign buyers. The flyaway price for the F-35A fell to $94 million. That's not a bad price, I suppose. In 2016, round of orders Lot 10, which was technically signed in 2017. Winter remains committed to driving down the price to less, or to around about $85 million for the F-35A in Lot 13. So it's safe to say it's been quite well put under its, or put into its paces and
Indeed.
test
Yes,
this particular aircraft. But we were lucky enough to get up up close and personal one of these over in, I think it was Pittsburgh last year. We got to see it, and obviously they had one of these as well at Riyadh as well last year, which we couldn't actually touch and get close to, but we could definitely see it and take photos. But yeah, a good bit of kit, this F-35.
Yeah, sort of serving well, I think, isn't it? Yeah.
So next on the news segment, and Matt.
Yeah, this is on Flight Global again, and the headline is Boeing gets $24 million for extra Air Force One design work. So the US Air Force awarded Boeing a contract worth $24.1 million for additional design work on Air Force One. The design work was not specified in the contract notice the Air Force posted online on the 10th of April. Work will be performed in Seattle, Washington, and is expected to be complete by December 2018. The design work is to advance the maturity of the air vehicle design beyond the preliminary design level on the VC-25B, the Air Force wrote in its notice, using the aircraft type name. This modification supplements work already taking place under the PAR contract, including the acquisition of 2 commercial Boeing 747-8 aircraft and a VC-25B preliminary design activity. The USAF awarded Boeing a $600 million contract to begin preliminary design work for the Air Force One in September 2017. The aircraft modifications include adding a mission communication system, electrical power upgrades, a medical facility, executive interior, self-defense system, and autonomous ground operation capabilities onto 2 Boeing 747-8.
And a wine cooler.
And a wine cooler. And let's not forget, I think this is one of the aircraft that could do with a gym, let's be honest. But the USA have plans.
What are you saying about Trump?
I'm not saying. I don't know what you mean.
Okay.
The USAF plans to replace its 2 747-200 based Air Force One aircraft delivered in 1991 with 2 747-8s originally built for Russian carrier Transaero. This, which filed for bankruptcy in 2015 before it could take delivery. President Trump has been critical of Air Force One's cost and personally pushed Boeing for cost reductions in 2017. After negotiations, he claimed repurposing commercial airliners as well as other cost savings measures promised by Boeing would save the government around $1.4 billion. The new presidential aircraft are scheduled to begin flying in 2024, long after he's no longer president. The cost of that. Sorry, I'm being a little political. I'm sorry. Cost of the program is $3.9 billion, according to the White House.
So they saved money. Then they obviously got rid of the wine coolers.
Right. Yeah, that'd be what it is. Yeah. Absolutely.
Don't want to create too much mischief here, but I couldn't help noticing that these aircraft, these 747-8s, were originally built for the Russian carrier.
Yes, Transaero.
Danger! Oh, I'm very scared.
What do you reckon of this, Stephen? Because obviously this is mostly based in your country in the USA. So
yeah, The 747 itself cost a lot of money, but I don't think people realize that there's a long list of requirements and that they have to make that aircraft compatible for certain things. The communication system, all the defense mechanisms, the onboard kitchen, food storage, and all that good stuff. There's a lot of modifications that go to it. So even if you're saving money on the aircraft, you still got to spend the money on the modifications itself. And then not only that, you have to retrain the crew, even though it's the same 747, it's a different type. So that's the differences and all that you got to retrain them on. And then, they have 2 of them. And, generally when he travels, they both go to the same place in case the other one breaks down. Right. And I think they also, the entourage that goes along with it, I think there's a couple other cargo aircraft that go with it that carry spares and all that. So you have to change out the spares, the tooling, and all that. So there's more to it than just the aircraft that goes into that. And just on a side note as well, they're talking about replacing the presidential aircraft. The U.S. government also operates a fleet of 757s and 737s that are also quite old. I was reading an article last year that said that the 57s that they use had a dispatch rate of like 65%. So that's not really good when you're moving people like the Secretary of State or the Vice President around the world. So.
Indeed,
Just,
I mean, this is all a bit
lot more to it.
Yeah, this is all a bit too sensible conversation, really. I should just stress, actually, our man on the ground, Lane Street, has some breaking news for us in regard to Air Force One, where he's found out actually that Air Force One will have a built-in McDonald's drive-up window, which I think is a brilliant idea. Neil Landwarn, great comment, but there's no way in hell I'm reading that one out.
Unless you're in the chat room, we won't be reading that comment.
Because we'll get sued. But lovely idea.
Excellent. So moving on, the next story is one that was brought to us by our very good man, Mr. Neville Bounds.
Indeed.
Yeah, I just noticed this week on the RAF website that the display details have been released for the 2018 Red Arrows season, which is great news. And a full list of where people can see the displays by the Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team, the Red Arrows, in 2018 has been released. The Red Arrows 54th season is also the RAF's centenary year, of course. Indeed. And displays are expected to be staged across the UK with a chance for millions to enjoy the team's dynamic shows from May through to September. The team is planning to display with its trademark 9 aircraft formation for the RAF 100 year. To enable this to happen, squadron leader Mike Ling is rejoining the squadron to fly in the Red 3 position for the season. Squadron leader Ling will cover the Flight Lieutenant David Stark while he recuperates from injuries sustained in an incident at RAF Valley in March, which also led to the death, sadly, of Engineer Corporal Jonathan Bayliss. Wing Commander Andrew Keith, officer commanding Royal Air Force Aerobatic Team, said, "Preparations continue for the Red Arrows 2018 season, when the team will play its part in marking the RAF's centenary year and aims to inspire all of those who see our display. Careful consideration was given in making the decision to bring a pilot into the Red 3 position. As the squadron recovers from the tragic loss of a colleague, the ongoing convalescence of Flight Lieutenant Stark and the safe operation of the Red Arrows is paramount for us. The decision will also allow the most visually appealing solution for the 2018 season and maintain the Red Arrows' famous Diamond 9 shape." Squadron leader Ling, who's a qualified Hawk T1 pilot, is amongst the most experienced Red Arrows pilots, having previously completed 9 seasons with the team, including flying as Red 3 in his first year with the squadron in 2008. He left the team at the end of last year, having been Red 10 for 6 seasons. Later this month, the Red Arrows are to carry out a planned annual exercise overseas, where the team, including pilots and support staff, will complete a focused 5-week pre-season training program. And you can see the list of the Red Arrow display for 2018 on the RAF website, which is probably best to do a quick search for it rather than me reading out the URL, because
a quick Google search will no doubt answer the question for you far faster than.
But isn't it great news that they're going to be flying again this season with a full 9 formation?
Indeed, and of course, obviously our thoughts, as we said at the time, obviously are with those, with those involved in the incident before, and of course, as Nick has quite rightly pointed out in the chat room, not at Farnborough, of course, because this is one of the few places where I think they were only able to do a fly past before, weren't they? Which was really, really sad. But if you are in the States and you do get the opportunity to see the Red Arrows, then do they do much stuff abroad? I don't really know.
No, not the US. No.
I'd love
Europe,
to. I'd love to
Europe
see
and the UK. Yeah. So moving across now then to the US, Stephen, the last story.
Yep. Another one from Flight Global. Boeing's 100th P-8 enters final assembly. The Maritime Patrol aircraft is destined for the U.S. Navy in the fall of 2018 and is part of a string of back orders that Boeing will keep its P-8 production line running until 2022. The aerospace manufacturer said it has delivered 82 aircraft since the launch of the program in 2011 and has a total of 127 aircraft contracted to the U.S. Navy, Australia, the UK, and India. The company believes it can add more aircraft orders to the program from the current and new customers, eventually extending the total number of aircraft delivered to 200. Norway signed an agreement for 5 P-8s in 2017, and Boeing is bidding to sell aircraft to South Korea, which is expected to decide on a Maritime Patrol aircraft by 2018. The P-8 is known for submarine hunting, but in the face for additional competition from aircraft such as Saab Swordfish, Boeing is keen to emphasize that the aircraft size gives it extra room for capabilities beyond its anti-submarine missions, especially for countries in the Middle East and a lot of countries in Asia. That what makes the P-8 interesting is the multiple mission aircraft. Said Matt Corn, global sales and marketing lead for the P-8, noting that the jet's anti-surface warfare, intelligence collecting, and search and rescue capabilities, we are able to incorporate new technologies, additional sensors, additional crew members, which makes it really appealing for our customers who can't afford other aircraft. The company also points out it's produced more than 10,000 units of the commercial 737, the airframe of which the P-8 is based. Well, it looks like they are definitely trying to get a couple more orders out of there. I think there was a P-8 at the Pittsburgh Air Show last year. I didn't get a chance to go on it, but I was told that it's a quite capable aircraft in its mission, which is primarily submarine hunting. But I think they also do some electronic surveillance and jamming with it as well. Wow. For the Navy. Of course, I think it's important to point out that it is not capable of landing on the carriers. So, unlike the P-3 of which it's replacing.
And over in the UK, the Royal Air Force here have got 8 of these on order from the US, and the Royal Air Force are hoping to take delivery of these, or start taking delivery of the aircraft in 2019. So we've got a bit of a wait till we get these over here in the UK. Mind you, at a price of, well, a list price, you can never obviously go by the list price because we obviously get a group discount. But these are roughly around about $125 million off of the bat for one of these. Which is,
yeah, I think it's based off the 737-800.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's based off the 800, uses most of the commonality with the 800, but obviously I think it's got a slightly different interior, this one.
Yeah, it has a lot more electronic stuff, and I also believe that it has a torpedo bay as well.
But I have to say that we saw one of these at RIAT last year, and it's safe to say they weren't really up for the idea of letting us on board this to have a look round.
Oh,
which is a shame. No.
Oh dear, there must be reasons.
I know. So that is where we bring the military news segment to a close for this week. And, well, let's get back to our guest, really, on the show this week. Stephen Ivey, welcome onto the show again, Stephen. It's good to have you back on. And,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
It's safe to say, Stephen, you've had a fairly, well, busy, really, kind of start to 2018. So fill us in on what's been happening in the life of Stephen Ivey.
Okay, so I think I was last on with y'all back in August. I just got my commercial single engine certificate. So after that, I was already working on my multi-engine, but I was working on finishing it up. I finished it up in October of last year, and after that, I started really looking for a flying job. I was kind of fed up with the job I had at the time, and just wanted to change in life in general. So I was offered several jobs as a survey pilot, flying 172s around. And I took a job with a company out of South Bend, Indiana. And I've been flying with them since October of last year. Been flying a pretty good bit. The start of the season, I didn't fly that much because of various reasons, leaves on the trees, so you can't take pictures if there's leaves on the trees, snow on the ground, things like that. So I didn't fly that much for end of October, November, didn't fly really at all. But after Thanksgiving, started flying a lot. Was in Indiana from about end of November till right after Christmas. Went from Indiana down to the Tennessee, Virginia area and the Bristol, Tennessee area. Worked there for a little while. Went up the Shenandoah Valley, the Roanoke, Virginia. Was there for a couple of weeks, and then over to Williamsburg, Virginia. Did some work over the Langley Air Force Base and the Norfolk area, and then on down to North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, back up to Indiana, and now I'm in Michigan. So that's what I've been doing. I'd say I fly probably about 100 hours a month on average. Really depends on the weather and everything. But I've been flying a lot more than if I was still at my old job at home. I'm flying the moon around. And the best part is I haven't had to pay for any of this flight time.
Well, no, so come on, I'm going to have to ask the ultimate question here. So based on the flying that you've done now, obviously, how many hours do you actually have in your logbook? Roughly, as of now.
I actually totaled up my logbook this morning, and I just crossed 1,000 hours as of yesterday.
Wow,
so,
that's insane.
Yeah. And before I started this job, I was at 430. So I've done a lot of flying.
Yeah. So I mean, again, one of the questions they said, I mean, because obviously you're doing surveying essentially, which is, I think it's fair to say, is not necessarily the most interesting thing you could be doing while you were in the air.
Yeah, Mike is asking the question actually, Stephen, in the chat room. Micah says, can you tell us both the fun and the monotony of survey flying?
Well, I would say the fun part is definitely the travel. Kind of going to the different towns stuff, which I've actually been to most of the places that we've went, but it's still nice being there for a little while, being able to check out the sites and everything. And also just meeting people in FBOs. Some really interesting people we've run across. I know when I was in Williamsburg, the line guy that works there, apparently that Williamsburg airport's had several presidents go through it. We met another guy that was in the military and had a couple of aircraft that he let us check out and everything. But as far as the monotony, the job itself, it gets pretty boring most days. The start of the season, we were only flying 4 to 5 hours a day. So it really wasn't that bad. But now I'm flying anywhere between 8 to 10 hours a day going back and forth. So I've had to find ways to kill time, well, kind of make the time go by faster, really. I know we have a frequency that we use for the other pilots that are in the area, so we'll talk about stuff on air-to-air, kind of coordinate with each other so we don't run into each other. Then listen to ATC, which gets old after the first hour. And then I, for Christmas, got me a set of A20s, which is the newer Bose model headset for aviation. And I've listened to a lot of podcasts while I'm flying. So I'll have ATC on the radio, the guys that I'm working with on the other radio, and then I'll have a podcast in the background all at the same time. So it tends to make things go by quicker.
Actually, going to what you were saying there, Stephen, Micah is actually saying, does survey flying require formation flying as well? Are you working with others in formation?
No, it doesn't require it. So the type of system I use for our survey is a patented system for this one company, and it doesn't require it. But the way the flight plans are laid out, they're generally anywhere from a quarter mile to a half a mile apart for each flight line. So we'll generally space each other out by at least 2 flight plans, so we can still see each other, but we're not close enough where we'll hit each other. Now, if we have some work that's in like a restricted or prohibited area where you have to call and get clearance into, we'll actually fly the same flight plan sort of side by side. So you'll have a guy doing one line on one side, and then you are on like 2 lines over going the same direction. So you can actually look out the window and see him and have, kind of avoid him at that point, because there's a certain tolerance you have to keep while you're doing the line. But it's sort of like a formation. I mean, it's not close enough to be considered one, but you can see the guy playing his day, so it's pretty close.
You're flying sort of alongside each other.
So, Nev, we've got some questions in the chat room. Do you want to...
Yes, we have. And a question from Tony S. He asks, what happens if ATC don't let you fly your track due to traffic or other restrictions?
It's kind of weird because, in the U.S., FAA manages all the airspace, but each area's got a different set of people. And they all, I don't know, they react to the survey work in different ways. I know here in Grand Rapids, the controllers have been really accommodating. They've actually moved several planes out of my way. Even though I'm flying on the final to the runway, they've actually vectored people out to where they can get down below me and then intercept the glide path for the runway. So they've been really accommodating. There's other places that I kind of question their decision making on how close they get people. When I was in Williamsburg, I was going over Langley Air Force Base, and I guess they were doing approaches for some of the fighter aircraft there. And you'll just have these fighter aircraft whiz by you, and they're at least a mile away from you. But, you know, when you're just flying a line and you see a little dot come whizzing by, you know, it's kind of startles you. But they're generally accommodating. If they don't want you there, they'll let you know before you even get off the ground if they want you there or not. And we've learned some cases where you have to really work with them and come back another day and do it. It's generally smaller airspaces that don't generally have a lot of traffic, and I guess the controllers just aren't as experienced and don't want the added hassle of having planes flying over an approach corridor or over the airport while they're trying to get commercial traffic in. So it really varies, but most of the controllers are really accommodating for what we do.
Well, I mean, presumably they're acknowledging, obviously, you're there to do a job in the same way they are, so that, you know, that it's sort of trying to sort of make sure everybody stays a safe distance away from each other, I guess.
Yeah, and a lot of it really comes down to communication. You know, for me, when I'm calling for a clearance, if I'm in a controlled airspace, you know, the airport itself is inside a controlled airspace, and they're asking, you know, what are you going to be doing? I'll be like, well, I'm doing survey work. I'm going to start this line X amount of miles in a certain direction. I'm going to be at this altitude, going east or west, north or south, and I'm going to be working south or northbound. And then they'll usually call you back and either tell you, we can't do that today. Can you work somewhere else? Or, you know, then they'll just read off the clearance for you and you'll go to work. But, you know, there's some guys I work with that they don't necessarily communicate it clear. They're just like, yeah, I'm doing survey work. I need a VFR departure out to this direction. And if you're not telling them all the details, it makes their job harder. It makes it harder on you because they're not going to know where you're at, so they can send the aircraft around you and give you accurate traffic warnings for stuff.
Yeah, I mean that makes surely that's good common sense, isn't it?
A question from Neil Landwarn in the chat room, Stephen. He says, it's a bit worrying. Do you worry about being replaced by a drone?
You know, we've talked about this a lot, the guys I've worked with. And I think it's possible, but the situational awareness you need for this job, I don't think a drone's capable of doing. And when I say that, you know, we're basically flying an ILS all day. You know, we have a certain tolerance. We get 200 feet vertically in either direction, and then we get 150 feet left or right. And then you get a limit of 3 degrees of roll and 4 degrees of pitch, which is not a lot of wiggle room on a calm day. Now, you factor in turbulence, wake from other aircraft, and then other aircraft that don't realize you're there and having to move out of the way. It's a lot to keep up with on just a single pilot operation that's human. A drone operator, I'm not sure, is going to be able to handle having to make constant corrections in turbulence, wind correction error, and then also avoiding other aircraft at the same time. It's a lot for me to keep up with on a really busy day. You know, on a calm day, yeah, sure, a drone's going to be able to do it probably better than I am as far as flying an imaginary line and tolerances, but when you start having the turbulence factored in and then other people that don't realize you're there and having to avoid them, I don't think the drone's capable of doing that.
You're safe. You're safe in your job for the foreseeable future anyway.
Foreseeable future, yeah.
So,
definitely.
Nev, we've got some more questions, haven't we, in the chat room?
Yeah, another question from Tony S. Do you see the pictures that you've taken, and what are they used for?
So I do not get to see the pictures that I take. We take the pictures, we ship the hard drive off, and that's about the end of it. And at the start of the job, they tell you, you know, these pictures are for basically whatever you want to use them for. They don't really tell you who they're for. Having done this job for a couple months, talked to other people, and just doing some research, I can tell you that some of the images are used for Google Maps. We were working in the Norfolk area, like I mentioned, and there was one guy that took a picture of the harbor where all the ships were docked, and we just had some snowfall. So you could see where the snow was pushed off to the side and everything. And he came back about a month later and was just looking at Google Images, and he matched up the ships that were in port, and then he could see the snow too. So you could tell that the images were recent. I think the majority of the pictures we take, though, are for local governments for tax maps. Here in the U.S., they tend to, you know, change your property tax depending on growth and all this, but also if you built anything. So the only way you can really tell that is if you go over to the person's house, look in the backyard, which isn't really economical to have a team of people going around checking everyone's backyard every year. So what we do, you know, without the leaves on, you can see plain as day if anyone's built anything without a permit or anything like that.
Oh. We've got a very important question in the chat room, Stephen, from Jen Niffer.
It's more of a complaint.
More of a complaint, really, yeah. She's said that when is Stephen going to fly to my airport? He's been just to the north, just to the south, and just to the west, but you still haven't been seen, Jennifer.
Oh, you see.
Yeah. I don't really have a good answer for that. I really do not get to pick where I go, and I don't think the company gets to decide where we go either. It's kind of at random. Generally, we know about a day in advance where we go next, depending on the project. And it's usually every Friday they will load projects. So I've actually got about another 2 hours before they might load some new stuff. I'm hoping that they give us some stuff somewhere other than the Midwest. No offense to people who live in the Midwest. It's great, but I've been in the Midwest for 4 months out of this job, and I just would really like a change of scenery and also just some cross-country time. I'd really like to be able to go out west and do some flying out there, but we'll see.
Another question from Tony S. And I don't know whether I should ask this one. Really, it's a bit
probably not. If your filter is going off, then probably not.
Tony S is asking, do you listen to APG or do you fear falling asleep?
Oh, that.
No,
is the short.
You know, I don't really have that problem. Like I said, I've got 2 radios in my ear plus a podcast. I have actually had a problem flying a straight line sometimes from some of the jokes that are made on APG, as well as this show.
Well,
I've actually had to pause it so I can get back on the line and keep flying. So I have to be very selective of what I listen to while I'm flying for, you know, getting off course and all that.
I think it's fair to say everybody knows that you listen to PT UK in order to aid you to sleep. So, you know.
Well, Gemma says that. I don't know about anyone else.
Absolutely. I've got a whole list of friends who say exactly the same thing as well, to be fair.
Mike has got a good question. Nev, Andy in the chat room, if you want to take that one.
Yes, except my chat room's just sort of frozen.
Okay, good.
Okay. Don't panic. No, Mike has asked quite an interesting question actually for the job that you do, Stephen. How much of the flying that you do is by hand versus autopilot?
Oh, it's all by hand. I don't have autopilot on board. It's all hand flying. So I'm hand flying the airplane for now 8.5, 10 hours a day. It's fatiguing.
Wow.
I think the hardest thing is, you know, you can't. I don't know. For me, it's kind of hard to switch from my left hand to my right hand. So, like, if my left hand gets tired, I'll try to fly with my right. But I don't know. It may be just me, but I have a hard time flying with my right hand. It's just a little bit harder. So there's that aspect of it, and then your feet cramping up. And then when I first started this job, I was just wearing tennis shoes, which, I mean, that's pretty normal, I guess, for most people. But I actually had a problem where the rudder pedals were digging into the soles of my shoes, so I actually had to switch to my boots to be able to actually not, have my feet cramping up from having the rudder pedals digging into my feet. And then I'll try to keep this a family show, because this is probably an aspect people are probably thinking about but not wanting to ask. So flying, it's usually, I do it in
because you're in the air quite a long time, aren't you? This is where this is going.
I'm guessing there's no
no facilities on board. Shall we say?
There's no facilities on board at 172. So I have an endurance of about 5.5 hours.
Wow!
I do my best not to drink any water.
Right. Oh, that's good.
But when you have to go, you have to go. So I have gotten creative for,
Okay.
So there's that aspect of it too that plays into it. But
isn't that a bit risky?
Turbulence is not your friend when you need to use the restroom.
Well, no, I can imagine.
I'm guessing you can't just open the window and kind of.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. I'll tell you a story. So we had this guy that used to work with us. He went on to go do something else middle of the season. But so we stay at some decent hotels, so they have breakfast in the morning. So we usually have like these coffee cups like this that some of the guys will drink coffee or whatever. And he was drinking his coffee, and then he would use the restroom in it. And he would open the window and drop it out.
That's actually horrible.
And then it would just spiral down to wherever he was flying over. So,
wow. Not on a sidewalk, I hope.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
There is a terrifying. I should just say actually that Tony has said in the chat room. By the way, I do absolutely love APG. He's just having a bit of a laugh, like we all are.
Look, we all do.
Yeah, Captain Jeff doesn't seem very impressed. He's asking questions. How do I leave this stupid channel? Which is fair enough.
We love you, Jeff.
For that, absolutely.
Just go back to flying for a second.
Oh,
I was
yes.
going to ask Stephen. You sort of did answer the question, but I'm not sure I got it all. But the endurance on a 172 for what sort of range has the aircraft got for the flying that you do?
So for 5.5 hours, if you just base it on 90 knots, it's roughly close to right at 500 miles is what you could travel in that time. But if the wind's heavy, you're not going to go as far. We've got one airplane that actually has the extended range tanks, so he has an endurance of close to 8 hours, so he can go almost 800 and something miles.
Wow!
In a 172.
On one tank of gas. In a 172, yeah. But I've had that plane before, and I didn't have it at this part of the season, so I was only flying it 4 hours a day. But it's nice to have that extra fuel on board, because there's been times where I'm doing the math and I'm like, okay, well, if I go in now, if I don't get vectored, I'll be able to get down before I'm gonna have to start worrying about fuel. I think the closest I've gotten, and it wasn't because I just was out there flying. I had to. I was number 8 in line to land, and I landed, and I had used 35 out of the 40 gallons, so that's about as close as I'd like to cut it.
Mariana's asked, actually, in case anyone missed it, what is the actual aircraft type you fly? And on top of that, do you have that kind of aircraft you fly every day, the same one, or do you sort of switch and change? And
so I fly a 172, I think it's a P model. And we generally keep our aircraft for the duration of our work period. So we're supposed to work for a month and get a week off. But, with turnover and everything, you generally don't get that. So we usually have the same aircraft for however long our work period is. I've had the same aircraft I'm in now since March, when I came back from my time off. And I'll probably keep it till the end of the season. We're not looking to have any time off till the end of May, so I'll have that same plane till the end of the year. Which the plane itself, it's a 172. We don't have a back seat because all the camera equipment. And then my particular model only has a 40-gallon tank, so I'm kind of limited as far as endurance goes. And then I don't have a GPS. I just have two radios and then the transponder, and that's about it.
Wow, basic
that is
then.
amazing.
Yeah,
Very bare bones.
I think everyone expects you to have all the singing and dancing, computers and gadgets and Garmin GPS.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I worked for this one company. They have the side that I work for, which is a particular camera system, and then they have another side that's mostly 182s and Cessna 310s and Piper Aztecs, and they have a different camera system on board. And all those airplanes have autopilot, Garmin 430s, all extended range tanks. They've got all kinds of bells and whistles on it, which makes it easier to fly. But they also charge a lot more for the work they do. The side of the company I work for is kind of a low bid type company, so they bid lowest and they pay the least. But it works. I mean, you don't have to have a GPS on board to do the kind of work we're doing. We don't fly in IFR at all, hardly. I mean, I've flown a little bit of IFR in it just because I'm current and I can get out of some of the airports that get clouded out and all that. There was an instance where the survey area that we were going to be working on was actually VFR, but the airport we were in was IFR. So I was current. I filed a flight plan. I took off and got over to the work area and flew all day, and then landed, filed another flight plan, and came back to the airport. So it's
wow.
It's not fun flying without a GPS. It's very old school. Yeah. Having to sit there and actually look at the different VORs you can navigate off of, and making sure that they're actually working. But it's
very
worth it.
So I mean, obviously you're absolutely loving this, but Jennifer was asking a fantastic question in the chat room, as with all the questions in the chat room this evening, as usual, as saying, what are you hoping to do next? So obviously you're enjoying what you're doing at the moment.
1,000 hours.
You've got 1,000 hours on your belt. I mean, in several years' time, what would you love to sort of move on to from this?
So, long-term goals to be at a legacy airline here in the States, preferably Delta, just for where I live would make the most sense. But obviously I can't go from doing this to going to Delta. So I'm going to have to go to a regional airline, probably is my best bet. I've went back and forth on what to do from here. I could go fly 135 cargo. There's a couple of companies in the U.S. that I could go work for, but they generally don't fly that much. You may get 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, which is 10 hours a week, which it's not bad. But if your goal is to get to a big airline quick, that's not really gonna be your best scenario. So I'm probably gonna end up going to a regional airline. I really don't have one picked out. The one that I had picked out quit hiring until later this year, and they have a wait list now for applicants. So I'm kind of having to look at other regional airlines in the area, which means I'm going to have to commute probably from Atlanta to whichever base I get assigned, which I've done before. It's not fun, but it's doable. So I'll probably do that. Hopefully I won't be there longer than 5 years, and then after that, I'll hopefully get on with Delta long term. But a lot can happen in 5 years. The airline industry could completely go to crap, which that's always possible. No matter what's going on, economies change, things happen. So as far as a backup plan, if that happens, I'll probably end up doing 135 charter operations. There's several around Atlanta that I could probably get on with. So
quite inspiring words from Captain Al in the chat room. Actually, he's very bold.
Brace yourselves, everyone.
Very bold statement from Captain Al. Actually, he says, going back to earlier, we were talking about you hand flying the aircraft, and Captain Al has said, you can tell Stephen is a real pilot because he's hand flying and not flying one of those hideous computer-driven Airbuses. So, well done, Al.
That's almost a compliment.
It is. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I also saw it. He said something about marrying a British girl and coming over there to fly. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that one, Al.
No,
really
come on. We'd look after you. I can promise you that.
That's good to know. I did look into I think it was Jetstar New Zealand or another airline down there that they were saying that they were going to loosen the restrictions for coming down there to work for the airlines as far as visas and everything.
Wow.
But they still have the same requirements as the regional airlines do here in the States, and the pay is about the same, which doesn't really do any good to go down there, except for the flying would definitely be a lot different than flying here in the States. But that would
be a lot better.
Probably be fun to go down there for a couple of years. But
unfortunately, Steve, we're going to have to start wrapping up now. But I think it's safe to say that the chat room has been rather mesmerised by the toilet discussion we were having earlier. There's been some fantastic ideas fired at your way. Mr. Anderson has suggested there might be another
plain tales about wing.
Some feedback coming in very shortly. There's also he's also suggested a piddle pack. I don't know what one of those. Liz Piper suggested that maybe not a curry the night before. Mr. The legend that is Captain Jeff is impressed by your 5 hours endurance. It's absolutely incredible. Micah, as you could always rely on Micah for a sensible answer, and he suggested maybe you should invest in some adult Pampers. That's another option. The list goes on. It's raining deer. There's some great references to what Jeff was saying about how do we get out of this particular show. It's like you can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Cue guitar solo, that sort of thing. So it's been a lot of fun. So it is where we have to start wrapping things up, I'm afraid, guys. Stephen, thank you so very much for joining us. It's
awesome, Stephen.
Brilliant to chat.
Thank you all for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime, my friend.
I think that we definitely can say the guys in the chat room have really enjoyed you being on the show tonight, Stephen. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you ever so much.
So don't forget, you can catch up with us on social media. We are on Twitter at Plain Talking UK. We're on Facebook as well. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook. I'll be posting a few pictures at some point soon of the where we are with the studio build, so you can see what's going on in there.
Indeed.
And don't forget, you can also find our website. Matt, where's the website?
Yeah, you will find our website on it's www.plaintalkinguk.com. That's www.plaintalkinguk.com. Facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, which is the bit that Carlos forgot about. We mentioned him earlier. Obviously, there's a marvellous new website that's available courtesy of APG, and that is the marvellous Plain Tales. And I need to go back to listen to the episode that we should have remembered earlier. So you can do that by going to a fantastic new site that Captain Jeff and the team have set up, and that is airlinepilotguide.com/plain tales, PLANETALES, Plain Tales. Well, all I can say is, Nev, thank you so very much for joining us. As always, the legend that is.
Pleasure.
Before we finish, Nev, how's that new camera going?
Oh, very nice. Yes, I've been playing around with it, as they say.
And the camera, yes.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to using it on some outside broadcasts and some air show stuff. I think we're going to get some absolutely awesome results from it, and with all the other ancillary gear that I've bought as well.
Indeed.
So it's looking very promising indeed.
And myself and Nev are getting closer and closer to being able to share with everyone a very exciting project that we've been involved in. I can't wait to share that publicly because it's been a lot of fun. That is where we have to wrap things up, guys. Thank you so very much for watching the show, as always. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Thank you so much to all those who download. See, I do read the show notes.
I'm sitting there thinking, has Matt read the show notes? Has Matt read the show notes?
Yeah. Thank you so much to all those who download via iTunes and Libsyn and Spotify and all the other services that are available. From all of us here, it is time to say goodbye. Say goodbye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye.